Okay, so the next thing I'd like to go over is updating you on basically when I was trying to create an unattended ISO for Windows 10 in particular. So the reason why I was doing that is because I've installed Windows 10 quite a few times, and I attempted to try recreating an ISO in Windows 10. Well, I tried to create an ISO that basically automates the install process. So I don't have to keep repeating the steps again. And I tried to get it figured out, but I had no luck last time I tried it. I couldn't really get an ISO to boot with an Answerfile that I generated with the Windows ADK. So I'd like to give a little status update on how that went. I kind of figured out how it works now to some extent. So let's just go over that. So basically what my findings were, let's shut down this virtual machine first of all. So my server's on XCP&G. We'll probably use that again for trying out the unattended ISO. But now let's actually shut down the whole server, which I should probably wait until the VMs are shut down, but whatever. So basically the way it works is I was using the Windows ADK, as you know, and you just go to the Windows toolkits, which is actually in the 32-bit applications. Windows kits, ADK, I showed how to install it already. And I think I did deployment tools right there. This is actually where I came to create the custom ISO. So this is the Answerfile that I tried doing before. That was generated through the Windows ADK, which you probably already saw. And I could not get an ISO to boot last time to actually work with the Answerfiles. So let me go over what I ended up doing. So basically I try to add this file and then make it bootable. That's what the challenge was. I apologize about not being super straightforward with that explanation, but I'm trying to make a bootable ISO with this file added to it along with everything else. So it's basically the way I ended up getting it working was this command right here is the correct command for generating an ISO. So using this image tool, I can just run this command. And then basically this is the folder that contains all the contents of the ISO, which is this custom one. And then this is a file to generate from it. So I can do like win test or whatever. And then if I were to copy it, open a new command window here, which it has to be command prompt. It can't be like PowerShell or anything like that. Otherwise it'll glitch out. But if I run that command that I just copied, guess I need to copy it again. Then basically this will take the contents of this and then create a new ISO file, which I can then use with Ventoy or whatever. So that's a command to generate an ISO. You actually use the Windows toolkit not only to create the Answerfile, but also generate the ISO. And that seems to work correctly. So why don't we go onto the server, because I have a copy of one. Then we can test it out. So I'm just gonna put this flash drive in the server, turn it on, switch to the source, which actually now I'm just realizing I don't have the source set up. Okay, that's better. Now I think the server should be properly set up. Switch to keyboard and mouse. Now we're gonna boot into Ventoy and then try out the custom image, and I'll show you how it works. So select my Ventoy drive, and then my custom ISO is this one right here. So what you'll notice is that, at least for me, if I boot into the normal mode, it gets stuck right here and it doesn't end up doing anything at all. But now if I come back to here, select that same one, and try Winboot mode instead, it will end up working, long story short. So what I ended up figuring out is the ISO is not properly set to be bootable. I've tried all sorts of stuff like that command that I just showed you before. I've also tried using img burn and selecting a sector file as well as specifying an offset, but that still doesn't work either. So then I did it on a USB flash drive because it's basically writable once you make a flash drive with Rufus or Etcher or DD or whatever. I can add files to it and it's still bootable. I tried creating an ISO from there, but that didn't work either. So yeah, now I'm doing Winboot mode, which works. But then once it starts up, you'll see that this comes up, which means it does boot properly and it detects that there is an answer file in there. However, the answer file itself is not properly made. So at this point, I have a couple options. I can either do the USB flash drive solution and toss it in there. I tried to make the USB flash drive bootable using like DD or img burn or whatever. Rufus even has an option in there to convert a USB flash drive into an img file, I think, too. I tried that doesn't work either. But yeah, so you can actually convert a USB drive into an img using Rufus, just so you know. I didn't know that till recently. But yeah, so making a USB drive or using Winboot mode seem to be the real options here. So yeah, that's basically that. And then at this point, I just have to have a correct answer file and then it'll work successfully. Right, so before we get into actually doing stuff, the last thing I would like to talk about is a solution that I've been doing with my audio recently. So for a little bit of context, I often like to hook up a second pair of headphones if I have another person in here. Then I can stream to my hearing aids at the same time as they use their own headphones. So basically, I'm hooking up two headphones to my computer simultaneously, and they each get the same audio going into different ports and everything. So in the past, I've used some software called Audio Router, which is pretty good software. Here, let me shut this down real quick. Just shut down the server. And then I can come back to my main system. So yeah, sometimes I like to use Audio Router, which I could basically route and duplicate programs into multiple audio interfaces. And as you can imagine, that goes through separate headphone ports. And then it goes to all of them simultaneously, which is quite handy to have. But I've been having some problems with Audio Router recently where the audio just doesn't go through all the devices. So I've been doing a slightly different solution recently to basically make the audio go to multiple headphones at the same time. So what I like to do nowadays is I use stereo mix to listen to this device. So for example, I just come into the control panel item for sound, and then stereo mix. As long as I have my headphones selected, the audio should always go through stereo mix. And what I could do is then listen to this device through the other port, and then they'll both get audio simultaneously. Now, one of the problems I've had with this stereo mix is I had recently switched to optical audio, because now my device has optical audio support, so I've been trying that out recently, which works pretty well. I don't notice much of a difference in quality specifically. I'm sure there's some areas where it might be improved, but for whatever reason, optical audio just doesn't work through stereo mix. Like this, optical audio works, but stereo mix doesn't pick it up for some reason. I've done a bunch of research and I can't figure out how to make that work, so I switched to 3.5mm jack again like I was using before, just so I could use this stereo mix. So if I'm trying to output to multiple headphones simultaneously, I like to use stereo mix. And if that's not really the best option, then I'll use OBS and monitor the audio on multiple OBS windows to as many headphones as I need to. So for each pair of headphones I have set up, I would have a separate OBS window that monitors audio to those respective headphones. At least that's my solution in Windows. I think you could probably use Voicemeeter software, but I don't like to have to install anything additional if I can get away with it. I like to keep things real minimal. And stereo mix, that just kind of comes with my audio drivers, so that's kind of nice to be able to use. OBS, I've always had that, so use that. Otherwise, yeah, Voicemeeter might be an option. I haven't really looked into that. Otherwise, I like that idea of using OBS for as many devices as I need to relay audio to. As far as doing it on other operating systems, I haven't done it on the Mac yet, but I'm pretty sure you could use Audio MIDI setup. That utility, you could probably create a multi-output device and add all the headphones to there at the same time, and I think it will output to all of them. You select a master device and stuff like that. Otherwise, I think worst case you could probably use loopback, but I think that audio MIDI setup solution might work if you do it on Mac. As for Linux, I'm not really sure because I haven't dealt with that much. The jack audio connection kit, which is a recursive acronym, that might provide some options. I'm not really sure. Maybe even Pulse Audio. I honestly don't know what it's like on Linux, so that's not for me to tell you because I have no idea. But I just wanted to kind of show some of the solutions I do in Windows and hopefully spark some inspiration if you wanted to do something like that but maybe didn't realize it or never thought of trying to do that. Hopefully this will inspire a little bit. But if you need just one other device, stereo mix might be the option, because it's basically it converts the speaker output to an input, and then you could use that input to listen to another device and effectively output to a secondary device. Of course, you could use like VB audio cable, but then using listen to this device is really more of a single pipe and it's not going to create any additional streams, just the one. But stereo mix is kind of its own pipe, like where you could select listen to this device on something else and the speakers will still work, or the headphones will. Unfortunately, I don't know of a way to add multiple listen to this device options for Windows or anything like that. But yeah, I mean, that's pretty much all I know regarding that. So yeah, if I want to output to a secondary 3.5mm jack, stereo mixes listen to this device seems to be a pretty good option for that.